Happy New Year and welcome to another year with us at the Hashknife Ranch. Today, we recap our top 10 videos from 2021. Welcome to Hashknife Hangouts. I'm Calen. My co-host Brandon is also my father. He's on your left. I'm on your right. If this is your first time joining us, like, comment, and subscribe. Interested in social media? Check out below for our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter handles. For those returning, thank you always for continuing to support us. And now to today's topic of last year. Now that we are into the new year, we wanted to recap some of our top videos and what brought them into creation. Like anything else on the ranch, they document the highs and the lows of life in agriculture. We will briefly discuss each one and the background surrounding their production. So with that, I will turn it over to Dad for initial comments.
Well, it's just a circle of life.
Yeah.
It's you do everything you can, hoping for the best, preparing for the worst, and hope that you can at least break even. And that's kind of, it sounds pessimistic, but that's really the reality of it. And we all live like that in agriculture. You have good years, a few of them. You have some bad years, and it seems like the bad ones have a higher impact a lot of times than the good ones because there's more of them. Those highs are short-lived, and the peaks aren't that high, but it's hopefully can overcome the lows that you had on either side of it. So it's a balance with a teeter-totter that's not weighted in your favor.
The other thing too is I'm looking at these. They're all 10 videos are not at the Hangouts. They're not in the shoot. They're not the shorts or anything like that. These are what we consider our educational ones too. So I think it should be stated that this started with the fact that we began creating these videos originally for our partners at Dunroven, because you work with them. It depends on what's going on, but a lot of the times it's once a week, and you kind of do your news from the Hashknife Ranch, and it incorporates a roughly 20-minute video, and that's what normally brings these videos out, and that's what started them. So I think that's kind of maybe somewhere to start too, is that's what makes you pull out the phone and kind of get everything rolling for it.
Yeah, I'm still, some days are better than others.
Yeah.
If it's a matter of, oh my God, I got to get this done, I'm trying to beat the weather, I will forget to pull the dang phone out. Right. And it's just a matter of the urgency of what you're doing, because believe it or not, it takes time to build these videos.
Yes,
it is a significant amount of time. You wouldn't think so. You think, just pull your phone out. Well, okay, and I can do that horseback pretty easy. The quality's not there, and I apologize for that. I mean, we're just, we're doing this again as an educational project to let people know, hey, this is what it's like in agriculture from our perspective. There's a lot of other people doing different things that are similar, but this is what we're doing and why, and what we know, and always willing to learn. But I video, and I'll video a bunch of things. For instance, spotting a cow that might be having trouble calving, and I'll bring her in horseback, and I'm taking pictures of that at different times. And there's times I got to put that phone in my pocket and I got to ride this horse, and
actually do your job.
actually do your job, and which would be kind of fun to see. But at the same time, I can't do it and make that cow. She gets by me once, now it's harder to do it. She gets by me twice. Now you've got some real problems, and you just can't allow that. And I can't do that with a phone in my hand, having some quality pictures to look at, and then still work a horse that isn't necessarily trained. I'm training a lot of these horses, so you got to have both hands on them too. So doing that, it takes, snippets here and there, and you're not getting really the complete story, but we're trying to do the best we can. And then I kind of know what in my head as I'm doing it, here's the story, here's what I'm looking for. And then I'll try to do a rough edit there. So I got to rewatch every piece of video that I did, and then give you a rough edit from this time to this time. This looks good, see what you think, and you're always free to add or subtract to that. I mean, that's just part of it, because then I think you also look at the entire video normally, and then just take into consider what I have thought was the best thing. So you got to go back, do those, and sometimes you have to you have to go back and look at certain videos multiple times to be able to get those right times and
Yep.
send them off. So it's what takes sometimes a 20-minute video, call it 20 minutes. I will have several hours
Yep.
into 2.5 to 3 hours of just doing it and then editing it. And then sending it to you. And then I know you do your magic on that end. I just can't.
If I were to guess, honestly, the process on your end and then my end, I would guess it probably takes combined for a 20-minute video like that, because there's so many segments and everything. It probably takes close to 10 total hours to produce. Because
I wouldn't be
you're doing your
surprised.
filming, you're doing all of your kind of the edits you do. Then I go through and I do the edits, make the transition so it doesn't look like garbage, and then it's decent. But you're also compressing those videos, making sure everything works. You get some sound, make sure things are all lined up, and then of course, like you said, I watch the video at the end to make sure it actually works, because if it doesn't, if there's something that's off, I've done this before where I went and reviewed it again. I was like, no, and I pulled it off YouTube and redid it because it really upset me.
Yeah.
But then you got to go back in and then upload it to YouTube, make sure it's all ready. So yeah, I would guess for the two of us combined, we're probably close to 10 hours into a 20-minute video. And some of them are longer. Like there was, we did the horseshoeing one that took me a long time to edit because we had so much film. But yeah.
Well, and there's been some that we've done. One what was kind of interesting in a way, I guess, was when we redid all of the overhead lines coming into the ranch on the power grid or off the power grid, and had really old poles that I was fearful were ready to come down in high winds. I mean, I was just stressing about it. And by the time we got it done, and I filmed those guys, really taking the electricity away, upstream into the place, and then pulling a pole, setting a new pole, putting the transformer on it, running lines. And then I had your brother and I had run underground wire to the house and the shop in large conduit, and put that in there and went, okay, we're ready for these guys. All I have to do is put in and hook it up. That was a whole day. I didn't do anything. I was calving at the time, but I'm checking my heifers really close. The pasture cows calving, they were kind of on their own. It was a nice day. The wind was blowing, and that was the problem. That one, I could not get decent film. Film was fine. I couldn't get decent audio. You couldn't hear me talking or saying anything, and these guys were doing their thing and doing a great job, but couldn't use it.
Yeah, you
Totally
sent it to
unusual.
me. You sent it to me, and I looked at it, I was like, I can't use it, unfortunately.
And I was afraid of that, but I did it anyway because you're not going to make, take the wind away. I think one of the things that we do our videos as an educational type thing, as an interest thing, but I think they're more popular because all of us are very visual, and especially if you're not part of that lifestyle, it's something completely different that you haven't been around or seen. Where when you're sitting here like us now talking, anybody can do that. And it may be boring to you, so you don't last long. And we understand that, we get that. But if you're
I think you're probably right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very visual. I think most people are.
Now, we'll just start kind of rolling into these videos though.
Yeah.
Before we do, what do you think is the #1 video, if you can remember kind of out of your?
I think the branding video, when we branded the horses, not the cows, but branded the horses, I think probably had a lot, right?
We'll get there. It does have a lot. I'll tell you this, our in the top 10, the number 10 one, it only had 1.7 thousand views, so 1,700 views, whereas the #1 video this year had 17,000. Oh. So there's quite
those
a
aren't
difference.
Huge numbers, but they're for us. I think
for us they are. Yeah.
I mean, we're not doing this professionally.
No, we're not. The number 10 one is the easy calf pull that you did for the Dunroven, and that was essentially I think you alluded to it earlier, was you had a heifer that you needed to bring in, and you were trying to use the phone, and you can only do so much. But yeah, it had 1.7 thousand views, and tell me a little bit about the backstory on that one and why you did it.
actually, that wasn't even a heifer. I don't think. I think that was it was a cow in a pasture that
Okay.
she had not progressed. I was riding a horse I was training, and I didn't have that many rides on him. I only had, geez, maybe half a dozen rides on that. The one I called the horse with no name,
Yep.
jokingly.
Yep.
Little Palomino horse, nice little. He turned out to be a nice little pony, but slow. He's like his feet are mired in concrete all the time. And I noticed this cow wasn't progressing. Noticed the feet were sticking out. They were the right direction and all, but she was just not progressing. I thought, oh man, and I went longer than I would normally go on a heifer for sure. And I thought, well, she's just an older cow, or not older, but she's experienced. I had a couple other calves, and I thought, well, I better get her in. Maybe we've got something else going on here. You know, you might see feet, but you could have a head going back and can't get out. You know, the head's not laid down next to the feet. It's always, I mean, it can happen. So after fighting her and getting her in with this slow horse, then I just got her in there, and I reached in and I felt a nose right there when I, you know, went inside of her. I was like, wow, I was surprised that the nose of there, that there wasn't some issue that I didn't anticipate or some worst case scenario. And I just hooked him up to, you know, the calf puller we got that we use, the way we use it, and he pulled right out. I dang near, or no, I don't even think I hooked him up. I think I was able to pull him with her having contractions without using a calf puller.
Yeah, I think you did too, if I remember right.
Yeah,
You were able
no,
to
that's
just
right.
grab
That's why it
his
was so
feet.
easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, okay, she was just being lazy about it. So I got to kind of watch her next year to see how she does on a
Which
pull.
it is funny too, because you know, I produce these videos in the sense that like I upload it to YouTube, make sure the titles are kind of easy to find.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was looking at other calf pull videos that people had, and the common comments throughout everybody's videos are always, why'd you let the calf hit the ground so hard? I'm like, oh my gosh, like you don't really have a choice. Like they are a little heavy.
You don't. And but you know what? Sometimes if they're not breathing and you're trying to get them cleaned out,
Yeah.
or you know, you get what's called a dummy calf, and they have not really
Figured out
had
they're
their
alive.
chest compressed, and they don't know they're alive, really. Yeah, they still think they're inside the uterus. And so you call them a dummy calf, but you can do what's called a Madigan squeeze on them with ropes. And what you're basically doing is putting some half hitches around that rib cage and squeezing them down for a little bit, and then you release that, almost like you're going through the pelvic birth canal again, so
Yeah.
that their brain kind of goes, oh hey, this is
I'm
different.
alive.
Yeah. Excuse me. And sometimes you can also do the same thing by smacking them hard on the rib cage or the chest.
Yeah.
And so that them hitting the ground, sometimes you'll see a cow, she'll have that calf standing up, and they'll do the same thing. So on their own. Most of the time they try to lay down, but I've seen them plenty of times standing up, and that calf's hanging there and maybe hip locked a little bit, and the cow's turning around trying to see what's back there, and this thing is swinging around and finally falls out and hits the ground. So yeah, I mean they're tough little boogers. They're resilient. So
The next one was horse breeding. I actually thought, because there are so many horse followers of ours, that there would have been more people to watch it, but there's only a little over 2,000 views, and it had the new stallion that we have this year, and I think he had 2 or 3 mares with him. And that
3
was
mares with him.
summer.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. He well, there wasn't a lot of drama either.
No, there wasn't. Which is good.
Which is way good. He's just a nice little stallion. The one we've had prior to him,
it was rough.
He was rough on these mares, and it was just a lot of drama, and you know, I didn't like that part. So yeah, no, I'm looking forward to his colts, and hoping that they're really laid back, nice, easy going disposition to animals, and I think they will be. But yeah, you know, but you know, again, horse breeding is something that not a lot of people see. I mean, it's a small niche. Anybody who's in it has probably seen it. You know, when you're dealing with horses, even if you just own a horse, the interest is there that you've probably, you know, taken upon yourself to see or look or be a part of. But yeah, that doesn't quite. That kind of surprises me a little bit, I guess, that there's not that many views. But
yeah, especially with like I said, we've got a big following with people in the horse world, so it kind of surprised me a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, the next one too was horse training. So it was horse related. It is another about 2,500 views. It was the horse training with the horse with no name. So
Ah,
that was his whole process when he was with you.
yeah. Well, I think I did. I had a couple of horses that I picked specifically that he was one of them, and I think I did some shots with just a little mare called Georgie, really
You
pretty
did.
mare.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we did any videos for our channel with her
The only
per
thing
se on
with
training.
Georgie, I think, so you did do some videos with her. They're all on Facebook if people want to scroll through our media, but the the ones that you have of her on the YouTube channel is her final training video.
Oh,
So
okay,
the one where you go through, you show what the finished product is.
right.
And you did one for him as well, which we found out his name was Bo Duke.
Oh, Duke.
But this was just the training process, all the things you did with him. And I think you had him during calving season too, right? So you're using him with new cows and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, I used them both during calving. Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Yeah, it was a good little one, 2,500. But then one after that was choosing the future, our stallions.
Oh,
You had two little horse colts that you acquired, and you wanted to like kind of give the backstory and what was going on behind all of that.
well, we had the stallion prior to that. We've had for 10, 11 years, I think, something like that, maybe a little longer. And I wasn't wholly satisfied with him because he was so rough on other horses. I mean, he was just kind of a puss head that way. And we had a couple of really cold winters in a row, which, you know, may or may not be the cause. I'm just correlating it to that. And we bred all our mares and every one of them come up dry. So something happened with him. I assumed, oop, you know, we've got a sterile stallion. So went ahead and sold him, and then wanted to pick up a proven stallion that was, you know, 3-4 years old, maybe. That's, you could see a couple of their colts, even old. I was happy to do even a 10-year-old horse, 8-10-year-old horse. And God, good luck, you know, finding what we want. And everything is very, very difficult. It's hard enough to find a horse you want, you know, as a riding horse, but go to look for a stallion that meets all of the particulars that you want. So went to a friend of ours who also raises walkers, and went and looked at what they had. And there was two little horse colts that were still on their mothers. And this is where you have to look and think, okay, what's this horse going to look like? And that's the challenge, you know, because you could choose something based on what they look like now, and then when they get older, you know, they could have some growth changes that you don't necessarily want.
Yeah.
And so we
Well, it's like
bought,
looking at a baby and saying, that one's going to be like a supermodel or an
right.
NFL player or something like
Yep.
that. And it's not
That's
going to
right.
happen.
That's right. So, you know, you can look at the mare, you can look at the stallion, and you can kind of get an idea what could happen. But, you know, we've talked about that before. It may not turn out what you think it's going to anyway. So chose these two little weanling stallions, and I kept them, worked with them, kind of let them be at the same time, but they had to stay together, of course, and couldn't be, because even a young stallion, a yearling stallion, can breed somebody. So you don't want that. I didn't want them breeding, because I want to go ahead and castrate one and have him as a available riding horse for someone as a gelding, and keep the one that would fit best. And as I watched him mature, like, oh man, I really like the look of the one, but I like the attitude on the other one. And then as they aged a little bit and changed, as like the whole package was the one with a better attitude. And I was like, oh, this is a better decision. And for a number of reasons, even when we did that evaluation, I was leaning towards him heavily, but you know, I was still keeping my mind open. And by the time it was time to make a decision, it was like, okay, yeah, this is the right decision. So that worked out really well. But you know, you got to be open-minded. You got to have an eye for it, which you hope you have, and you can still be wrong. You know,
Yeah.
I've looked at a lot of horses and you can still be wrong.
Well, and I think from some of the comments, if I remember correctly on that particular video, there were people saying, "Hey, this was really informative. Thanks for sharing," because they didn't realize the amount of observing and kind of so-called work of what you're saying right there. There's a lot into it, picking one. You don't just go eeny meeny miny mo, I choose that one. It's it's
I
definitely
like the
okay.
red one with chrome wheels.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
exactly.
don't do that.
But I think that was the cool thing about that being an educational videos that help people understand there's a lot more to choosing those sires, because they're going to have a lot more offspring than the mares will. And so,
Right.
that's kind of a keystone to the breeding process.
It is a keystone. And one of the things I don't know that I talked a lot about on there was I'm constantly observing them, even
Yeah.
from a distance. And I'm watching them. I'm watching how they act to each other. I'm watching how they move.
Well, then after
Uh,
years, it's
all of
you're
those.
watching their colts, what they
Right.
throw, and
Right.
that goes into a big part of it too.
And that's where this spring is going to be really kind of a exciting thing to watch and see how these colts are and how they imprint, how easily they imprint, how well they imprint,
And
that
then
kind
their
of stuff
walk.
too. And their walk, yeah, got to look at that walk. I want to see how their body build is. And of course that's only half the equation. The mare is the other half of that, and a
Right.
higher influence
Yeah.
on that attitude. So
Um,
anyway,
all right, moving on to what is this? Number 6. We've got the bulls being turned out for breeding, which actually led to the next one, if I remember correctly. And there were about 3,500 views on this. So that was cool. But you took them out to the pasture and you let them loose for the summer.
okay, yeah, well, which herd? I mean, there was a couple different herds that we were
Oh, uh,
managing.
I
Uh,
I don't I couldn't tell you.
I
I didn't look at the video today, but I think
if I
it's yeah, go ahead.
if I was on horseback, if we turned them out of the trailer,
I think it
then
was
it
a
was
trailer
okay. If it was on the trailer, then it was over
on the
on the
lease.
lease where we can only have 50 pair. Yeah. So that would and next to this nice, really nice spring out there. So yeah, that's that. I mean, people don't think so much about how animals are, how cows and bulls interact, and especially a young bull who's a virgin bull, and his whole world so far has been, hey, where can I eat some grass?
Right.
I need a drink of water. I want to lay down and sleep for a while. Well, the sun feels good, and then all of a sudden, hey, what's that? I
Yep.
mean, you see that light switch. So yeah, that's kind of neat, and how those cows act at the same time.
Now, I think it led to the next one, which was number 5, new bulls.
Mm.
Um, why did you have to get new bulls?
Uh, we had a bull that had developed a big lump on his jaw for one, and a hard lump, and then another that was he had a foot issue. All of a sudden
That's
developed.
right.
It was like, oh my god, he kind of went downhill. And then another one who broke his penis, and your mother noticed that right off when we put him in. I was like, that was from the year before, or the summer before, but it's like, oh my god, now we're in a bind because you have a balance, and it wasn't in a super bind. We like to have a very low bull to cow ratio. I like to target about 20 cows per bull. That way we get good saturation on them. We've talked about that. Well, when you all of a sudden take a bull away, now the rest of those bulls have to take up that that overflow of cows would
Right.
increase their numbers. Like, you don't want to do that. So now we're searching for a bull at the last minute, and that was kind of it's not panicky, but it's like every day you go by, you got cows that are coming in and out of heat, and you could miss some potential conceptions by another month.
Well, and
So
something to keep in mind for people is cows are only in heat for 24 hours, right?
24 36 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a really short window. And
Yep.
when you have, let's say, a dozen cows go unbred during that time, you're losing money
lot.
potentially.
That's a lot. Yeah. And so, that's paid off, because I've heard of, it was a hot summer this last summer, and people preg testing this fall. We had 2 drives, one older cow and one heifer. So you're looking about 2%, 1.5%, 2% of our herd was dry. But there's been some others around us that they're up there 8, 10. One person I heard had 24% dry. Don't know why. Is it just the heat, or is it because they're not saturating their cows with bulls?
Right.
And I think I think the latter, because you know what, it costs money to run these bulls. It does, and you're only using them for a few months of the year, and then the rest of the time they're idle. And it doesn't pay to buy and sell bulls every year. Some people lease their bulls, which is risky, but we don't do
Yeah.
that. We don't want to invite problems like that are potential. So, that's a huge hit. You take say easily somebody's got 100 head of cattle and you got 24 of them turn up dry.
Yeah.
That's devastating.
Right.
So,
Well, and that's actually a good segue to the next one for us, which it was one of those, we started with a high of the calf poll, like, hey, it's new birth and stuff like that. But then the next one, number 4 for us this year, was the forced pair sales at 5,000 views, and it was titled "Selling the Herd: Forced Pair Sales." And you want to kind of talk about the reasoning, and this is again us. We were different than what you're talking about with the guy having 24% dry. But it's probably a similar circumstance. So you kind of want to explain the background behind why you had to sell pairs out early.
Yeah. The similar circumstance would be, it's hot. The weather was very hot this year. We were in drought conditions, and when it's like that, you don't have the grass, and you have got to have grass or hay to carry those animals through the year and then in through the fall and winter, so that you've got animals for the spring to be able to calve. That many dries, when it's hot like that, those bulls won't necessarily work longer of a day. They tend to breed in the mornings when it's cool, and some in the evenings. Some bulls have a high libido. It doesn't matter, but that's not as often. And some of these cows, they just don't cooperate and won't stand as well for a bull, even though they're in heat when it's real hot out. So heat's a real issue. With that heat, we also were coupled with a grasshopper infestation, a huge grasshopper infestation. And our native grass didn't take a beating. It did, but not like our improved grass, where we calve on and also winter on later on in the year, after we pull everybody closer to home off the native grass after we wean. And if you don't have the grass and you can't find the hay, you've got to call your herd. And really, that's what it amounted to, is we don't have enough grazing for them, and the amount of hay that we're going to be able to buy will not sustain the number of cows that we have on hand to do that. So you take your cows that are your oldest, even though some of them have been good cows, they're not going to last much longer in your herd as a viable, producing cow. So you sacrifice them, and anybody that may have some other issues, like we had two, they were 2-year-olds or 3-year, they've been 4-year-old cows that had calves 2 years, and they were really producing large calves, or good calves, average calves, but their body score was way low. They're putting everything they have into that calf. So at some point they're going to turn up dry, because their body cannot recover. I sold them, they go with, even though they were young, they're not going to recover enough. And I can't have them sticking around for an extra year just eating hay and not producing if they're supposed to be in the production herd. So same reasons, we had to liquidate 15% of the herd or so. And it's painful, but in the long run, if you can live through it, you're going to be better for it. You're pruning that tree a little bit deep, not hitting the roots, but it's sure not making it grow very high or very broad while you're doing it. So, but it will be better in the long run, we hope. Yeah. So we got enough hay to go around for what we got, and that's what we got.
So that's what led to number 4 this year, was selling the herd. Number 3 now, it just over 5,500 views, was horse castration, which actually kind of surprised me.
Yeah.
I thought,
well, it's probably not seen a lot too.
It's not,
maybe by
it was either, I saw it as either being a flop or something that was really going to take off, and it kind of sort of took off, but not nearly like I thought it would. But it did show that one of those stallions that you're talking about that you ended up gelding and having castrated by the vet. So you want to kind of do some of the explanation behind that one?
Well, it was just that. It was time to make a decision on which horse we were going to keep as a stallion and which one was going to be gelded, so it would be ready, and available for sale later. And so you just schedule, and the vet came out. The one thing that's different about that now that than what we used to do, and I think I covered that, is that we used to do our own castrating on the horses. We just we don't do that anymore. It's
Yeah.
I think it's easier. There was more of us. There was everybody's scattered so much that I couldn't castrate a horse now if I had to. I'd have to get a bunch of help, and you don't know that those helpers, although they may be very well intentioned and do what you tell them, maybe have kind of the skill that you could. You may have a couple of guys that you could, but you might need. We usually took at least 4 of us to castrate a stallion, so it's easier to call a vet, have
Yeah.
them come and
Crank 'em.
push through the magic of xylazine, or and romp them, put them into a deep sleep, castrate them, and there's not the trauma, and not that that is something that they will remember.
Right.
If you do it the old way we used to, and I think I showed some of the old implement, the old oak staves from a barrel that we used to clamp the cord, and then we would just cauterize right through it. So it's just a different way to do it, more probably in all reality more humane.
Yeah.
Um,
I would agree.
so it's not a bad thing, it's and when last time I think was I probably 20, 21 years old, 22, something like that was the last time that we did that on our own and didn't use a vet. So it's been a long time. We've been doing it 25, 30 years now that we have been using a vet do those castrations, and I think it pays off.
Yeah, and then sticking with horses, this was actually your guess. Was you thought it would be the #1 video? It's actually #2,
Huh.
and it was the horse branding video from last December when I was home on leave, and it was 8.9 thousand views, so almost 9. Wow, we've gotten a lot of attention on that one. and
I
not
thought
always
that's why.
not always a good attention either, but hey, we got
Well,
attention.
and that's why I thought that would probably take a lot of views, because I didn't anticipate they would all be good. Not
Yeah.
everybody's going to agree with it,
Yeah.
but it's like when I was working for the Fish and Game, we had a state director that was, it was his way or the highway, and he would have demonstrations about why we weren't going to fight, because this is what happens when you fight. And he'd pull out two skulls, two deer skulls out of a box that were locked together. He says, "This is what happens when you fight with me. We'll all die." And it's one of those deals. And he was making the point that the Fish and Game in Montana had like a 94 or 96% identification rate from the general public. That 94, 96% of the people knew what the Fish and Game was when they heard the name. Of course, I couldn't help myself. I said, "Yeah, well, those are probably the same numbers that Jeffrey Dahmer has. It doesn't mean it's
Maryland
good."
Or Manson, Charles Manson.
Or Charles Manson. It doesn't mean it's good,
Yeah.
So that went over like a lead balloon. But
you're right,
yeah,
and that's what I was saying.
Yeah. So you knew that it wasn't going to always be positive, but that's part of it. This is reality. This is how we do things.
And to clarify, I had some comments on there that said we branded the horse multiple times. Okay.
No, you don't.
So, well, we technically did, because there's 2 irons to that brand.
Right.
There's the top part, and then there's the bottom part. Now, if you watch the video, we had 3 separate dark horses.
Yes.
I used 3 separate dark horses to get 3 separate segments. And so it looks like you're branding a dark horse 3 times. If that was the case, you would see a brand time 1, time 2, and then on time 3, you'd see 2 other brands on top of that. No. It's 3 different horses. But hey, I had some people saying that we were doing some pretty god awful things to some animals, and I was just like, okay, whatever.
Well, that's when they're not paying attention and not following what's going on. But yeah, if you put that many brands on top of that, that would just be a blob. You wouldn't really
Yeah.
have much of a discernible brand. You'd be dang lucky to have that. So yeah, no, and you don't brand them year after year. You brand them once.
Once, yeah.
That's it. You're done.
One time you're
Lifetime.
good.
It's like a tattoo.
But then the last video that we got, and then we can kind of discuss some other things, but the top video for this year blew everything else out of the water. So the last one was 8.9 thousand views. It didn't even make 9,000.
Yeah.
This one was 17.2 thousand views, so almost 20,000 for us. And that's a huge one. We got a lot of followers and subscribers from that, so that was awesome. So anybody that's following us, thank you again for finding us and sticking with us. But it was sale time, shipping and selling calves this year, which is interesting because we did one like this last year. However, I think because people are understanding more and more the beef issues and some of the monopolies that are going on, and why meat, they're trying to understand why meat is getting so much more expensive. I think this caught their eye. And so we got a lot of subscribers from this, but do you want to kind of share the backstory behind it and kind of the information that you gave on that one?
Well, I wonder if the type of sale that we did is for it's called an enhanced health sale.
Yeah.
Well, using, beef quality assurance type protocols, you might say. Not that we are a certified beef quality assurance ranch. I'm working on that, but using those protocols, I talked to a number of years ago to the owner of the auction yards, and he said, "Yeah, absolutely, put those records in there. Sounds like a good idea." So I did. Went to the sale, watched. They never said a thing about them, and they were all preconditioned and the whole protocol, what you did on each individual. I mean, we went above and beyond. And I had turned that in, and it promptly, and I know, got just round filed. They just threw it away. And so I talked to him about it. I said, "Hey, what's the deal?" I go, ooh, and so now they have this sale that is based on all of these parameters. And it's not quite as detailed, but it's basically the whole herd health management and what they've been given, how they've been treated, what they are, their age, whether they've been weaned or not, how many days, what type of vaccines that they've had that they're protected with, the whole everything. So now they have that sale, and they were starting to do it, and usually they'll run your steers in first and your heifers follow. Well, this time I watched these heifers come in. I went, "Oh, those are ours." You just tell your cattle, and they were the heifers. And I was like, what's going on here? And auctioneer just started bidding. I was like, whoa, you're supposed to let people know what these are, because you have a mix. They're just because they're in that sale doesn't mean that they've been enhanced with all of these good handling practices. So I stopped and said, "Hey, hold on." And he went, "Oh yeah, we'll find that." And then started over. Well, then they just didn't like that.
Tanked.
Yeah, prices tanked on it. So, but it's like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So you try to advocate for yourself, and they go, "Oh yeah, you want to say something? Watch this." So what do you do?
Yeah.
Steers did okay comparatively, to them, and we're close in there with everybody else. I mean, they're still, it was depressed prices. It's tough.
Yeah. Well, and it again illustrated some of the beef issues in the United States. Also, it further highlighted the drought issues because you talked about weight loss on those calves.
Yep.
It was interesting because you did admit to stopping the auctioneer in that video, and then we had a comment saying that that auctioneer probably lost more knowledge in cattle in those 10 seconds of you doing that than you have in your lifetime. So I thought it was funny, but that's okay.
Says the auctioneer that's online, or his kid or something, or somebody who wants to be an auctioneer. Yeah. It's hard to judge. It's hard to make that statement accurately when he doesn't know the two people that are there, and the guy may know more than me. Don't know.
Yeah. To follow up, so that's our top 10. Let me recap real quick. Top 10 was starting at number 10. We'll end at number 1. Easy calf pull was 10. Horse breeding was 9. Horse training with the horse with no name was number 8. Choosing our future with the stallions was 7. Turning the bulls out for breeding was number 6. New bulls 5. Selling the herd, the forced pair sales for the summer. That was number 4. Horse castration in 3. Horse branding from last December, number 2. And then sale time, which we just covered, of actually sending the calves to market this fall in October. Was there any one of those videos in that top 10 that surprised you?
You know, probably, yeah, the calf sale, that top
Yeah.
one. I'm just kind of really surprised that that had as many views as I'm glad it did.
Yeah.
Whether you agree with it or not, or whether you agree with anything that we do or not, it's always good to have people watch, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe they can learn something. And you know what? They might put something in a comment that we didn't consider,
Right.
and always looking for that. Why not? What the heck? That's what this is about. So
Yeah.
that one kind of surprised me, because you can go online and you can see calf sales all the time. I mean, they have video sales every day going on somewhere. So
Right.
uh
And I'm thinking about it too. I'm looking through this list. Everything else we did, I was kind of like, yeah, this will probably get some views. We'll see. It being in the top 10, okay, yeah, it really doesn't surprise me. I guess that one being number 1 probably does surprise me, because I
yeah,
figured the horse branding that we had talked about, because it had uh so much attention, whether
right.
good or bad, I thought that would probably be number 1. But the fact that that one outperformed it by, another 9,000 views, yeah, I guess that probably is the one that surprises me as well.
Yeah, I think there's a interest out there in things that we do that I don't even think is worthy of putting on film, which
Yeah.
is surprises me, but what people will find interesting. And I think one that uh I don't know that it's been released yet, is I'm trying to solve that problem with being able to feed square bales.
Yeah, it'll come out
And
next week.
okay, good.
Well, next
And
week in
well,
terms of our time. This will be released after that, but yeah.
yeah. So it'll be right after Christmas,
Yep. Yep.
2021. Yeah. So and I said up front on that, I'm going to try something and I might fail at it, but that's the nature of it. Sometimes we don't think things through, or hope things are going to work better than they are, and you see what the problem is and you adjust. And so now we've got a product that actually works, and I want to I've actually been told a couple of different people, you need to patent that. So we'll see. Yeah.
The other one is, was there one on there that you are surprised did not get into the top 10 off the top of your head at all? When we were talking, I wrote 2 down to talk about, because it does kind of surprise me looking retrospectively. But is there anything off the top of your head that you initially thought, oh, why is that not in the top 10?
I don't know how many views it got, but the one where, and maybe it's because it's emotional on our part, and it's an issue, is when we went to put cows up on a lease and there was no water. And I was like,
Oh,
to
yeah.
us, that is kind of a, oh God, it's a panic. It's not necessarily panic, but this is an issue, and everything else stops to do that. But that's from our point of view too. Nobody else necessarily knows that that's what that's like. So
Yeah,
um
you're right, because I thought that one would actually take off. Now that I think about it, when we put that on, I was like, oh, no water, like people will completely understand.
right,
Um,
right.
I'm doing the views real quick because I want to see where that landed. Um, it's not even close to the top 10. Where is it? Oh wow, it's way down there. It got less than 400 views.
Yeah,
So yeah, that does surprise me, especially when we have these platforms like the Hashknife Hangouts and In the Shoot
right.
outperforming that by quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting. I didn't even think about that one.
But again, I think that's because you tend to personalize what's
Right,
important and how
right.
important it is. So you think, oh my God, other people would think this is no.
Nope,
And then
not at all.
that's why there's other things that are like, uh, you know, putting and we haven't done this, and we're going to get some film on it, is, some fencing.
Yeah,
Who in the
yeah.
hell wants to watch that? But
Well, there's
people
people out
find
there
that
probably do.
interesting. Yeah, they do, and especially when you explain what you're doing. A lot of times we just do it because this is how you do it, and we just got the task to get it done. But when you start thinking about what's the reasoning behind it, then there's a lot of, oh, this makes sense, or I had no idea. So God, as a second one.
So I had 2. While you think about that, because they might be the same. The first one was cattle branding, because we had horse branding and we had the attention from that one, and then the
Right.
cattle branding came out, and I thought similar attention would come, and it never did, which is surprising to me. And I think it's maybe potentially because people see horses more as pets than they do
Yeah.
cows, and so there's that dissociation that they're like,
Oh,
not a big deal. I don't know. I could be wrong, but that's just kind of a
that might be.
hypothetical or a hypothesis to what's going on. So
Yeah, I think maybe the other one that would surprise me that it's not is the preg testing.
that's what I was gonna say was preg
Yeah.
testing, because people don't really think about preg testing being important, but we
Right.
do talk about it, and it is unique. And I
Yeah.
thought that one would be in the top 10 somewhere, but it wasn't, and it was very surprising to me.
How many do you know how many views it had? Probably not that many.
Oops. Yeah, I can just pull this up real quick. I'm trying to maximize my view.
Because last year we had preg testing, and then this year, with the one we just went through in early November, we did it. It's a little bit different for that one.
So preg testing this year, it fell at number 11. That's why.
Oh, really?
It was squeaked out by the EVZ calf poll by about 38 views.
Oh, it was a horse race.
So yeah, it was close. That's why that's not there. But then we talked about the cattle branding. I don't even see it anywhere near here. It's less than, there it is. It's less than it's almost as much as it had 50 more views than the water one. So again, the things that you think might take off and they don't. So
well, and I think if we were to brand more traditionally by
with wranglers and stuff,
wrestlers, and dragging a calf to them, I think would probably be more watched, because it is a little bit more traditional.
Yeah.
And I don't know, a little, I mean, there's not, I shouldn't say dramatic, but it's more of something that was done,
cowboyish.
150 years ago.
But the other thing too is the reason why we don't do it is it's more stress ultimately on the animal, and that's why we don't do it. So
well, actually, if you do it with a few cows in there with them,
the road
and then you just turn them right loose,
yeah,
then it's less stressful, but it's harder to do it, when you're actually doing the work of trying to find out which one you brand. That's why some friends of ours will mark them, with a grease pencil on the top.
Makes it easier.
That, oh yeah, you can look down out from your horse and you can see which one you've already branded. But it's much, much less stressful that way. But that's, again, it's a pain to do it too. It's not efficient, I should say it that way.
Now the last question I have is which video did you think was your favorite to either film, produce, whatever it was, but it never made the top 10 out of the list that we created?
I think the bottle calf. I would have thought people would have really liked that bottle calf. And it was, it's a pain to have a bottle calf, but at the same time, you're saving this little guy and you're watching the progression of how they get better.
Yeah. And they're adorable.
And it was a better story too, because the cow was there as well. And it showed, I should not have kept that cow. And I admitted that. I was like, I made a mistake, and then was forced to keep her because she'd gotten vaccine, and you can't put her into a food chain. I mean, that's just being responsible. You just don't do that, or you shouldn't do that. You're not supposed to do that, but I mean, I know what happens. So you're really nursing this calf and her mother along to get them up to where then they can go to sale. And, we did that successfully. So that was really good. And I thought, they're so cute. And, they figure out once the light bulb turns on that you mean a warm, full belly, then all of a sudden you're a good friend to them. So I thought that would have been fun.
I actually have two. I'm looking through those. One, I'll end with a high note on that one, so I'll get there. The next one is grafting a calf.
Oh yeah.
It only had like 200 views or so. But I thought that was cool because it's more, I guess, gruesome if people think about it, but you skinned a dead calf, and you try to use a cow. I think it was a twin, wasn't it? It was kind of getting kicked off. So you took the twin and you tried to graft it onto the dead calf's mama. And ultimately it did end up being a success story. And that's why I liked it, because I was like, yes, that's a small win right there. Plus the cow can still take care of it. And the other cow won't be drawn down by two calves. But yeah, that was one, and then the other one is actually, believe it or not, bloopers. Us trying to make that intro for the channel.
Oh God.
It only
Jeez.
had like 100 views, but it was like one of the first videos we created, and I love that one just because it's so stupid. And then at the end, we just get so excited because we're like, I think we got it. So that
Yeah,
was probably mine.
I think I threw a bad word out there because
You
I
did,
was so surprised.
yeah.
You know, and the thing of it was we weren't reading a script.
No, we
That was all
originally
off the top of our
I
heads.
originally had it set up for having us read a script, but then eventually I just realized it's not going to happen. So we
Yeah.
just kind of got into a groove and saying the same thing 20 million times until we got it.
Yeah, that's funny. Oh yeah, no, it's interesting to see what people like or what they'll view or for how long they'll view. And you know, we'll have more videos doing some of the same things. May have slightly different outcomes,
Right.
changes to them, but they'll be, you know,
People will
everyday
start to
life.
see the cycle. It's the same thing
Right.
every time.
Yeah, yeah. And like right now, it's like this is the time of year where it's like, oh God, because you know, the wind was blowing the other day and I got out of the pickup and I'm, you know, cutting the strings on this bale. And in the time it took me to get out of the pickup, cut the strings on this bale that's on the back of the pickup and set it up so where I can start feeding it off, my hands were just aching, you know, fingers because they were
It was cold.
cold, wind blowing, and I felt sorry for those cows. So I gave them an extra bale, you know, just because they're fighting, you know, cold temperatures and you know, they're all standing in a real tight herd. What you can do with, you know, 100 head of cows in a tight herd where the wind was blowing over the top of them. You know, I mean, they find those spots in a pasture or edge of a coulee, and they're standing there and like a bunch of yaks. And then you go through with a bale of hay, and you know they'll come feeding right along with you. But you feel sorry for them, so I gave them an extra bale that day, and
Okay.
I think they needed it, cleaned it right up.
Yeah. Well, that's our top 10 for 2021. Hopefully we'll have a lot more top 10s in 2022.
Well, there'd only
Not
be one top 10, wouldn't there?
well, yeah, but
Did
what
you
I'm
see a
saying is
lot more
like,
top 10?
well,
More views on the top 10.
yeah, how about that?
Something different.
More views and better top 10s.
Let
So
me help you out there. Yeah.
thanks. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but hey, I get there.
Hopefully we'll have more number ones. Oh wait, you can only have one
Yeah, you
number
can
one.
only have one. Well, actually, that wouldn't be a bad deal because more number ones means they just keep getting more and more views. So
There
they'll
you
say
go. There you
2000,
go.
19, 20, and yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll keep filming. We'll keep finding stuff to look at, and not really finding it, just taking the opportunity to put it on a camera, and we'll see what we can do done with this next year, and hope people like it, and give us some comments. But until then, we thank you till you're better paid.